Hi, this is Kona, and we're going to go through partitioning and how to do partitioning. This is important information you know in general, but also because a lot of what you do on your quiz this week will be on partitioning. So partitioning is a way to find the number of ways you can partition or divide a group into smaller groups. Everyone, which not literally a person, but everything needs to be put into one and only one of the groups. This involves factorials, and the sum of the numbers on the bottom has to be equal to the number on top, and that's without the factorials. But what is a factorial? A factorial is basically the exclamation button or the exclamation point. So here, down here, it says 5, that's a factorial, 0 factorial. And where you find it on your calculator, so here's your calculator, and it's on, so you go to Math and over to the PRB, and it's number 4, which you can either just hit 4 or you can go down to 4. It's easier if you just click on 4 and it'll show up answer factorial. So let's go ahead and do number 5. Well, first of all, what does factorial mean? So factorial is just you take the number and you multiply it down from itself. So you've got 5 factorial, that just means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and that's 120. Or you could do 5, come over, factorial is 120. So that's how you use factorial, that's what it looks like. Okay, so 0 factorial, this is just kind of an FYI, is equal to 1. Why? Because there's only one way to arrange things if you've got 0 different groups. So there's only one way. So here's an example. How many ways can you divide a class into 5 groups of 3 students each? So you've got 5 groups and there's 3 students in each group. So to get your total in, if you've got 5 groups and there's 3 in each group, that would be 5 times 3, which is 15 total students. So then you take your 15 factorial divided by the number in each group. So that's your 3 factorial raised to the power of 5, because that's your 5 groups. So how would that look over here on your calculator? So on your calculator, you would have 15 factorial divided by, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the 3 and the factorial and raise that up to your number of groups, which is 5. Hit enter and you get 168,168,000, which is 168,168,000 different ways you can divide a class into 5 groups of 3 students each. So what's another example? How many ways can you divide a sample into groups of 4 men and 3 women? So we've got 4 men and 3 women. So our total in is our 4 plus 3, because that's our total. So our total in is our 7 factorial, and that's divided by our option A, which is our 4 men, times our number of option B, which is our 3 women. So in this case, we've got our 7 factorial divided by, and I'm going to put in parentheses, 4 factorial times 3 factorial, and we get 35 as an answer. Okay, so moving along, the formulas when doing partitions with probability. Now this is the really big one, because this is what you'll be doing a lot of on your quiz. And this probably looks really crazy. So the first part is similar to the one above. So total in divided by the option A times option B with the factorials. But then when you deal with probability, you have to multiply that by the probability of option A raised to the number of option A times the probability of option B raised to the number of option B. And I know that probably doesn't make a huge amount of sense. We'll do some examples. It should help. So first of all, the number of option A plus the number of option B equals the total n. and the probability of option A plus the probability of option B is going to equal 1. This can be expanded out for additional options or choices. So you've got total n, A, B, C, probability of A, probability of B, probability of C, and this is number of A, B, C. You will have some of these on your quiz as well. So for an actual example, if 15% of people like Congress, find the probability that 3 people will dislike Congress and 1 person will like Congress. So we have 15%, and this is, you will not get the table to fill in like on a quiz or something like that. I do the table just because, I'm not kidding, when you go to do your quiz, if you do the table, you are much more likely to get the right answer. The table just really helps things make sense and you organize things. So please, please, please trust me and just believe in the table. Use the table when you take your quiz. You're gonna have to create your own table, but trust me that it will be worth it. So the number of people who like Congress, yes, is there's 15% probability. So our no's, because remember our total has to be equal to 1, that's right up here, has to be equal, probability of A plus B equals 1. So this is 0.85. Then the probability that 3 people will dislike and 1 person will like Congress. So then we take that and we plug it into this big ugly formula there. So we get our total n, which is our 4 factorial, over our 1 factorial and then our 3 factorial. We then multiply that by the probability of our yes raised to the number of yes, which is 1, times the probability of no raised to the number of no's, which is 3. So that's where those numbers come from. So then to enter it into your calculator, so we've got, and this is where parentheses really help. So 4, so parenthesis 4, and then factorial, then divided by, and then here's parentheses because we have to divide it by the 1 factorial times the 3 factorial. Make sure to add that extra parenthesis because we have this one closed and we have to add that one closed. Then we're multiplying that, timesing it by, I'm going to go ahead and use the parenthesis, 0.15 raised to the first power times 0.85 raised to the third power. And that should be enough. And we get 0.368475, which could round to 0.3685. So there you go. That is how you take that one. So here's another one, and this one's going to be a little more confusing, but it's really important that you get this. So an example of at least one. So if 6% of people pick their nose in public, find the probability that in a group of 10 people, at least 1 will pick their nose. So when you're dealing with at least problems, now this is really important, dealing with at least problems, what you would normally need to do is you'd add the probabilities of 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 6 and 4, all the way up, and that would be a lot. That would be doing this for all of those. So instead of 4, 1, 3, you would be doing 10, 1, 9, and all of this, plus 10, 2, 8, all of this, 10, 3, 7, and that would just take forever because you'd be adding all of those up. It just gets ugly, and trust me, you don't want to do that. So what we could do instead is find the probability of, or find this for 0 and 10, and then subtract from 1. So what we're going to do is, if our probability is 6 and 94, 0.94, and our 1, remember, do the table, make the table. We're going to say 0 yeses and 10 no's, and find this first. So we go back to the formula before. So we've got our 10 factorial over our 0 factorial times 10 factorial, multiplied it by 0.06, the probability raised to the number, which is 0, times the 0.94 raised to the 10. Now here's a little trick. If you think about it, if you've got 0 factorial, remember 0 factorial is 1, not 0. So you end up with just 10 factorial over 10. Well, something divided by something is 1. Then you've got 0.06 raised to the 0 power. Well, anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So basically, you've got 1 times 0.94 raised to the 10th. So all you really need to worry about is this 0.94 raised to the 10th. So instead of doing all of that ugly stuff, all you really need to do, and let's clear this out, is do 0.94 raised to the 10th. And there you go. You get the 0.53861515, blah, 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 which is the same as if you did. You're probably going to make me do this, right? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll pause it, enter it in, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back. I went ahead and entered the 10 factorial divided by the 0 factorial times 10 factorial times the 0.06 taken to the 0 power times 0.94 taken to the 10 power, and hey, guess what? It's the exact same answer as the 0.94 taken to the 10th. So just in case you didn't believe me, there you go. But remember, that's just the first part, because the next part is you need to take this value and subtract from 1. So what I would do is just do 1 minus, and then 0.94 raised to the 10th, and you get 0.4613848859. So there you go. There is how you do factorials. This will come in handy when you take your quiz, and please, please make sure and use the table. So I hope this helps. Thanks.